Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. Many people think that the way to grow is to start an online community or a course, but most people don't know how to actually do it effectively and make it work for them. Today, we have an expert, Deb Schell, here to unpack some of this stuff for us. Deb, thank you so much for being on Your Brand Amplified.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's excited to be here.
Same. Very excited that we are finally here. So let's talk about your career and some of the pivots that you've had to make.
Just a few.
Like us all. But I think this is important because it's part of the entrepreneurship journey. There's no linear path that you have to take to get to where you get, right?
And even if you want one, it doesn't work that way. I'm a linear person, like, okay, I'm going to do step 1, step 2, and step 3, and then everything's going to work out. It doesn't work like that. That's kind of how I started in 2020. Previous to that, I had been a reporter and journalist and wasn't making money at that. And so went into sales, corporate sales, didn't like that, but it paid the bills. That's how that goes. You know, I got out of about $46,000 of debt. Then I was kind of like, all right, I'm done with this. I had been trying to figure out what's the next step for me and what's going to make sense to start a business. And so I really wanted to do an online business and I didn't know where to start. I live in central Pennsylvania. There's not really a lot of people around here at that time. This is back in like 2016, 2017. Not a lot of people that I knew that were doing online community. And so I was looking online and I found this community called Location Indie. I ended up joining. I ended up flying to Denver to meet them a few months after joining and then met them in Mexico in 2019. But long story short, to say that community helped me transition and leave my corporate job and become location independent. And my plan was I quit my job in December of 2019 and said, I'm going to go be a travel writer now. And I was pitching travel stories. I was working on building a portfolio and travel writing. And then all of a sudden, we stopped travel.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's quite a story.
That didn't work too well. But what happened was it led me to the career that I have now, which is community building, because what I learned was that was such an impactful experience for me to meet these people online, develop relationships with them. They helped me to figure out what I was going to do. And they basically supported me throughout that process when I didn't really have anyone in my in-person, community. And a lot of people were like, what are you going to do? I don't get it. So what happened was I decided I'm going to launch my own community because I just feel like it's such an important thing to do. And so I launched this community called Find Calm Here. And it was all about helping people find calm in daily life. I had been doing in-person events pre-pandemic, and then I learned how to flip them into building online.
Nice.
And so we had these amazing workshops. I hosted over 30 workshops in 2020. We did a lot of things with bringing in speakers who were experts in all kinds of different topics. But when I went to launch the community as a paid offer, which is the goal to have revenue, to have money to do this thing, it failed. I had no paid members after my weekend launch. I was gearing up. I was doing email marketing. I was doing the Facebook, the social media, everything, and nothing.
Wow. First of all, I love the name Find Calm Here because this resonates immediately. Yes, I need that. We all need to find some calm in our lives. But I think one of the issues that I found is I belong to so many Facebook groups, right? And I look at them and some of them, people will post something and then they just want you to join their Facebook group. And then they're doing all these things to make you offers, but really they just want to sell to you. But it doesn't seem like they're making a genuine connection with me. I also am a single mom. I teach university. I have a full-time job and I'm an entrepreneur. So I don't have time to weed through and find the right groups for me. And so you're still doing this today, right? So how did you transform from crickets to, okay, now you're actually making money and you're also helping entrepreneurs all over figure out how to do this?
When I launched the community week after week, when I failed to launch, I decided to keep going
Mm.
and just do all the things and then, figure it out and maybe come up with another strategy of workshopping. And the people that kept showing up in my community were fellow community builders who asked to connect, to help each other, support each other about our own communities.
Oh, okay.
And so I ended up hosting what's called what we call now the Mighty Mastermind, which is this small group of cohort of people who were all building on the Mighty Networks platform, which is the platform that I ended up becoming an expert in. And over the course of about 6 months, when I was just literally excited to meet them every week, and they were like, you should get paid to do this. Like, you should do this as a business. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea, because I'm trying to figure out how to make money. So at that same time, I ended up starting to do consulting and helping other people build their own communities and launch their courses. And I really learned that there's a lot of misconceptions about what it takes to launch a course or a community or a membership. And a lot of people, like you said earlier, might do a Facebook group, but then it's really just spammy. And that's not a true community, right? Because you're really not building the psychological safety that's needed. You're also not building any kind of community where people are actually connecting with each other. And those are the two differences between an audience and a community, is that they have to be able to connect to each other, and you want to do it in a purposeful way that's actually benefiting them. So those are some key tips that I learned and started to really implement with clients as we really worked on what's their community strategy. And then I relaunched my community for community builders in 2021. And we had lots of workshops around how to create engagement and all of those things. And then last year, I decided to close that community because I focused on writing my book, which is Creator to Community Builder. And I decided I just really want to dive into helping other community builders really be successful, because I just saw so many people struggling with it.
No, that is so necessary. So your book is out now.
It will be probably, I don't know when this is going out to air, but it will be soon in September, mid-September. I'm looking to launch the advanced reader cohort. I've already opened that. So I now have another community, which is called Community Builders with Purpose. And so that just recently opened up. And within that, in the next couple of weeks, when I get the PDF back from my designer of the manuscript, I'll be allowing people to read that and give me some feedback on it. And then it's going to go to be published.
Fantastic.
Following that. So,
well, you'll have to make sure to send me the links so I can include them in the show notes for the launch.
Yeah, it'll be the same link. So it'll be the same links I sent you. But yeah, I'm just going to update those.
Awesome. So if somebody's trying to build a community, what skills do they need to have? And is it a full-time? Do they have to work full-time at this? Because I have an online program that I'm just relaunching right now. And I know probably many people who are listening have thought about having an online program or trying to build community, or maybe having that issue of going from audience to community building. And one of the strategies, of course, that you hear is you need to do this, you need to do that. And I'm like, I don't have time to do all of this. And so maybe I can spend a few hours, but I don't know if I can dedicate full time to building that online community.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that I work with that are just doing it by themselves, or a team of one, or maybe they have a virtual assistant that's part-time that's kind of helping them with a couple of things. And communities really need a team. A robust community of a couple hundred people or larger than that, you need to have a team of people that can help you, because there's just so many elements to community building. And that's why I always recommend people in your stage, or maybe people that are just starting out, to try little smaller opportunities that are time-based or that are structure-based. Whereas like maybe they're going to do a 4-week course and it's very clear. There's a start and an end date, and it's for a specific purpose, so that people can really start to align you with whatever that help is that you're providing to people, with the problem that you're solving for people, so that they know and they can say, oh, I have a friend that really struggles with getting visible online. And that's what you can help them with, is you can help you're amplifying their brand. And so helping them either with a course or a coaching program. And I call that like a small cohort. I just posted a blog recently about this idea of just bringing a few people together, finding your ideal clients or ideal members, talking with them, kind of understanding the problems, and then creating something that is solving their problem. And then also charging for it, so that you get some revenue.
Right, right. Yeah, definitely. I love that. So you're building community, but you're doing it in a systematic way so that you're
Well,
not
and
going to
including them.
overwhelm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and including them, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I've seen, like 99% of them, are doing this assumptions in their house. They're like, I'm sitting in my office by myself and I'm assuming a lot of things. I'm assuming everybody's going to need help falling asleep because there's a lot of people out there that struggle with sleep or something. So I'll just build a course or I'll build a membership to help them sleep better. Well, that's very general, right? And that might not solve. And if you're talking about a mother who is first time mother who's struggling in the first 30 days,
right.
well, that's really specific. And that's mother is probably like, oh, I could use this help right now.
Exactly.
So that is a whole different level of clarity and detail that you can provide. A person will then know as soon as they click on a landing page or click on a link and you have that messaging there, they are going to know this is for me or this is not for me, but maybe they know somebody that it's, oh my goodness, my aunt just, had this problem. And so, or my sister or whatever. But that's really what you want. And I see a lot of people just making assumptions and spending so much time building it. And then like go to launch and then crickets because they didn't validate those ideas. Their community concept is what I call it. They didn't validate their community concept with anyone. And we need to talk with some people before we do something because they will give you exactly how you can help them. They'll say, this is what would be really helpful right now. And then you can create it. Yeah.
Yes.
So I really focus on that validation and just not going to launch with something that's fully built either. Just kind of having something that's semi-built, but then bringing them in so that you can have beta members or whatever you want to call them, founding members, to have somebody come in and help you so that they can feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah, that's the other thing that happens so often is people are striving for perfection and we get stuck in that, just that cycle of like, I can't launch it. And they put barriers up in front of themselves. And so then it may not ever get launched. Or like you said, it gets launched and nobody wants it because they didn't design it with the end user really in mind.
Yeah, and I've done that when I was launching in 2020. I was more focused on the tech. Okay, I'm going to have a crowd. I'm going to do a streaming thing with 15 speakers to launch my virtual summit. I had a 4-hour virtual summit to launch this community. And then I had 15 speakers and then all these things lined up. And I had a partner program. I am the master. And a lot of people I know that are similar to me are the master at complicating everything.
Well, you're trying to add
the biggest thing
more and more value, right?
But what I've learned, especially in the last couple of years, we don't need content because we're saturated with lots of things. People want direction and they want your support. So whether that's one-to-one support or whether that's a small group, but they have to be able to be heard. Facebook and like social media, Instagram, those kinds of platforms are great for certain things, but not for allowing individuals that maybe are following your brand for you to hear them. And that's what it allows in a private space, maybe like a Mighty Networks or a Circle or Discord. There's all kinds of different platforms. You have to figure out what's going to be best for you, but really just deciding, I really want to bring some people in and build relationships. And that sometimes is scary, right?
Yeah. So talk about that, because there are Facebook groups. And then there are these other systems that you've talked about. I know, I'm on some Mighty Networks groups, not on any Discord groups, but then I also know like Kajabi has courses, but you can also maybe do some groups. System.io, I think, has the same. So there's all these different systems out there. So what is the difference between a Facebook group and an online community? And then how do you figure out which online community is best for what you're trying to offer?
The first thing I always recommend to people is, what has your experience been? What has your experience been with Facebook? What has your experience been with these other places? Are you really super tech savvy, or is it not, because honestly, a community could be an email that you send to a bunch of people and that you reply back to each other.
Yeah, that's true.
You can meet at a coffee shop every Friday and have a conversation, and then maybe decide to follow that up with an email throughout the week to keep in touch. So it really is a method of how do we create connection? Now, Facebook groups can be great for that. And there are some tools that they keep improving to do that. The challenge with Facebook is that you're logging into a platform that has lots of distractions for your user. So for your member, they're already like sidetracked. The second they log into Facebook and click log in, they have to figure out where your group is. They have to figure out how to get there. They might have 1,000 notifications and yours is 95 on the list. So they're not intentionally choosing you. When they're going to Facebook, and then through that, they find you with an update or a notification versus having a dedicated place for them to go. And they're going to see there is your content, is your members, is everybody that is talking about that topic, that subject matter that they're really interested in talking about. So they don't have to have any of the distraction. The other thing as a creator is any social media platform you post on, they actually own that content as soon as you put it up there. So they could take your content, they could repurpose it, and you lose a lot of rights that you have as a content creator when you're owning the copyright of any kind of course material, things that you're putting together, PDFs, worksheets. All of those things are things that you can sell, and you want to try to, maybe if you have a Facebook group because you know your members are all on Facebook, that's okay, but let's bring them somewhere else to guide them to where your content or your connection is going to be. So if it's just a support group, where they can they connect that it's just going to be, we're talking about this one topic, because that'll give them the psychological safety they need. Otherwise, if you're in a main Facebook group and there's lots of people in there, like I've been in Facebook groups of like 5,000 or 6,000 or 10,000 people. Yep. I'm going to not post. If somebody said, oh, post your challenge this week, I'm like, what? I'm not going to tell you that because you'll have all kinds of comments with people telling you how to run your business. And 95%, I would say, of the people that, like, if I post something about my business on Facebook, they will give me suggestions. And 95% of those people have never built a business.
Interesting. Wow.
And I'm just like, you haven't done any of this. Why are you telling me how to run my business?
Yeah. And also, it's not one size fits all. There are a lot of people who create like, hey, I'm going to show you how to grow your Facebook group to 15,000 people and monetize it. But what worked for them in that moment might not work for the next person.
Exactly. I followed the framework in 2020, what other community leaders and influencers have been doing, but they had an audience already built. Like they had been building an audience for a decade. I didn't. And so I was being told, I was getting messaging that I didn't need to do that. And unfortunately, that's not true. And there are just so many things that are very conflicting. And what I always recommend doing is really aligning with your values, your purpose, and your mission so that you know what's going to be right for your business and connecting that community strategy or course strategy to that business model. Because you can't just launch a community. I mean, unless it's a fun book club that you're just doing with your friends on Thursday evenings. That's different. But I'm saying, like, if you want to do this as a revenue source and additional revenue for your business, most of my clients, it's not a single thing. They're not just doing a membership. They're doing services. They're doing products. Maybe they're doing other things. So that's the other thing I'll say is that I think a lot of people get the notion that, oh, I can launch a membership and get 10,000 people or something at $5 a piece, and then I'll make X, Y amount of dollars a month. And it's very hard to convert. I had a client that has an audience of maybe 80,000, and she said that it took her about a year and a half, to convert 130 people. So I think it really is just, we have this unlimited community opportunity, but with that comes the community challenges of really, that's going to separate you as being specific and clear so that people know, oh, this is for me or this isn't for me right off the bat, because that'll help them make a decision and it'll help you align better with your ideal clients or members.
Yeah, for sure. Are you ready to take your brand to new heights? Join the Brand Amplifier for Entrepreneurs program. Learn how to build, elevate, and amplify your brand with a comprehensive 10-module course. Learn more about it and other ways to implement our strategies at fullcapacitymarketing.com. Click on EFCM Learning Hub for more information. Can't wait to help you amplify your brand. This takes me back. Before the pandemic, I had an in-person community in Houston, Texas, right before I moved back to LA. And it was a social club. And it was not very much money, but it was also like, even for somebody to pay $20, $30, $40, $50 a month to be part of it, we had to make sure that we were adding continuous value. How many networking events are we doing? How many cocktail parties? How many tickets for fashion shows can we give away? You have to constantly be thinking of how you're adding value so that people keep paying, even though they might be paying $20, $30, $40 a month. That's still money that they're spending with you versus somewhere else.
We're in a time of people who want more direct support. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of people also have this idea that they can do this passively, and community is not passive. Community is you showing up and doing things. Now, you don't always have to add value by doing lots of events. Adding value could just really be verifying what your members need. Maybe they want to connect more, and you can find one of the members that wants to lead a co-working session once a month or once a week. Or maybe you can find somebody who wants to host an open mic night. Or maybe you'll find somebody who does a game night. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be the organization leaders. Mm-hmm. It can be the members. And that's what I call member-led cohorts or member-led events, is because you ask the members, hey, what are you interested in doing? Would you like to do an in-person meetup if you have a community that you can do that? Or you have chapters or something, maybe you're a bigger organization, you might have chapters. I really think it's a great idea to, now that we're through the pandemic, to combine this online experience with an in-person experience. Because like I had said, that really impacted me to like meet these people and know that they're real people that are doing the things. And that makes a difference. And it's going to certainly, as we get into this crazy AI world, it's going to make a big difference. And people, when they talk about problems and finding a solution, I don't want to go to an AI person to talk about relationship or personal development problems.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to go to a bot and ask them that, because they're probably going to give me something that isn't customized to what I need, because it's general.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that we're really going to have to worry about coming up in the future. And the ways to avoid that is to build relationships and to offer your members a place to be heard and seen and valued. Yeah. And AI can't do that.
Right. Yeah. I didn't even think about having, like, you could basically, not now, but sometime in the near future, I'm sure, start a community, replace yourself, and make it seem like with an AI chatbot acting as you, but it's not going to be as authentic as what you would do. And I love the fact that you touched on another way to include members is asking them if they want to host something. What do they want to, how do they want to participate? So you're building it together, as you mentioned.
Yeah, because honestly, it's more fun. It's more fun that way. Yeah, exactly. One of my clients, we did some ideal member interviews. We learned that some members had some really great skills that they would be happy to share. And so we called it a skill shares events. And so they would reach out to the members and basically say, hey, who would like to host the skill share this month? And then somebody would say, okay, I'll teach somebody. It was a mindful living or simple living community. And so they were going to talk about gardening, or somebody had an expertise in like making pickles, all kinds of different little things. And those are things that elevate your members and allow them to feel like, oh, I'm important.
Nice.
People could use some information that I have in my head. And that's what we call shared wisdom, is when we're able to share that with a group of people. I mean, they were doing this centuries ago, right? Sitting around a campfire and telling stories. And that's how people got stories. Like, that's how history happens, before we had people writing about it. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes it's just good to go back to these amazing principles of just building relationships and allowing people to be heard and seen, and then highlighting them and saying, hey, if you know something, I don't know that thing, I'd love to hear how to do that. Definitely. Would you share it with us? And there's 5 other people that want to learn it too. So
now, another thing that you touched on was you saw people being really successful, but you were being told, oh, you don't have to have this following. Do you need to have an email list? Do you need to have a social media following? What are those important things to help establish and help propel you faster?
I think if you have an expectation of like $10,000 a month, that's not going to happen without an email list and a team of people who can help you, with your social media and with building services or products or things like that. If you are interested in bringing people together because you have some life's work, like you can gather some information and put that into a course about something that you've learned in your life, or you want to host a coaching group that you can help people and allow them to have a supportive space to share some things. I don't think you need an audience for that. I think what happens is you just connect to your current existing network, you put some messages out and you just ask people, hey, I've been thinking about like leading this support group for people who are really struggling with getting off of their devices. And, I don't know anybody that's struggling with this right now that I can think of in my head, for example. But let me ask the LinkedIn followers that I have, or let me ask my Facebook people, or let me send an email to a couple colleagues that I know that have complained in the past about that. I wish I could get off my device. Maybe we have a support group. Maybe we meet once a week or every other week, and we encourage each other throughout between those meetups about how we could actively spend more time outside, for example. And you don't need a big list to do that. Yeah. Now, the challenge with going that kind of a strategy means that you might have to figure out and do some things for free for a while until you figure out what you uniquely can provide and how you could frame that into something that's an offer that people would actually want to pay for, because that's a different level. You've got to explain to them why you and why they would pay for this and what kind of things that you're going to provide. But I always recommend, like I said, just starting out with just asking your existing network about a problem that you can solve. And if they have that problem, and then just talking with them and saying, hey, how have you solved this in the past? Have you tried to be consistent with getting up from your computer, 4 times a day or whatever it was? And they're like, oh, I just keep getting distracted. And I've had these apps, then they would tell you all of these things that got in their way. And then you could build something around a solution that says, all right, well, we're going to send a text to you. And if you don't answer that you've went outside, I would call you or whatever, something. I don't know. I'm making all that up, but you know what I mean? You set parameters around helping people, because most of the time people want that accountability piece because we have a hard time keeping ourselves accountable.
100%. So as you moved through this, you found yourself ending up being a coach, right? So what was that transition like? And what are some things people need to consider when they're thinking about going into coaching or designing a coaching program?
So I initially started off as a consultant, and I still say that I am a consultant and strategist for business, but I really learned, especially in the last year or so, that I really had a talent for the coaching aspect. And so those are just different things. Like consulting is really where you have an expertise versus coaching is maybe where you have some life experiences or background or something that helps people achieve something versus just saying, I know something about this platform and I can give you all the answers to the questions that you seek. But it doesn't mean I'm going to change the game for you versus that I can just give you what I know. I think coaching is different ballgame because it allows you to get more in depth with people. And so one of my clients actually introduced me to this program called UMAP, which is an assessment program that helps you align your values, your strengths, and your preferred skills. So things that you like to do with all of that together and figure out, okay, what is it that I'm really great at? What are my top strengths? And also, what do I really like doing? Yeah. And also, how does this align with the values that I want to keep? What does that look like? And then clarifying that, I went through a program with her. I ended up becoming certified as a UMAP coach. And so that happened in 2022. And that's kind of led me into focusing more on helping individuals instead of groups of people, because I feel like we're just in such a place where this whole economic challenges are happening. We have hiring problems with just the whole collapse of just the hiring market is just a mess right now. So I think people are just whatever stage or phase they're in, whether they're thinking about changing careers or they want to launch a course or maybe try out some kind of a membership model. I think it's just always helpful to really go back to what's important to you. And then how can we align that with the people that you're going to help so that we can get a message together? But I think the biggest tips are just about understanding how you work best. And I just realized that I work really well as a coach and I really enjoy coaching. And so that's kind of how I got there.
Nice. My next question was going to be about how you work, if you work one-on-one or if you work with groups, because I know you mentioned earlier that you closed down one of your groups. You have this other one started and you started talking about this. So it's a perfect segue.
Yeah, so I am a multi-potentialite, I would say. I do a lot of different things. I have a lot of different backgrounds of things. And so I found that the group, what I was leading it in 2022, was just kind of stale and it wasn't really active and people were just kind of getting distracted or doing other things. And so it just wasn't a good time. And so that's when I was like, okay, I just need to focus on something else right now. So I focused on the book. And then I knew I wanted to launch something for the book to support people because I feel like this book is so important and it's so helpful, but it's also helpful to have feedback. The feedback loop, when you're a creator, when you're starting like these ideas, I have a course idea. Great. What is it? Let's talk about it. And that in a community, what I said with community builders, it really helps because people have been in different stages or phases of their journey with this. So some people in that community, they've done it all, and other people are just starting out, and there's all the people in the middle. And so just having that ability to have those different points of wisdom that people will share and knowing that you can share this because we're all focused on building a community, a purposeful community, not just a community to sell a course that maybe nobody ever finishes, because that's a lot of community creators out there are doing, oh, I'm going to build a course and I'll launch it and you can go do it. And if you finish it, okay. If you don't, okay. I care in my community and I care with my coaching clients and with my design clients. I care about what their needs are so that we can prepare them to be as successful as possible. So currently I work one-to-one focused primarily, but I also now have that group and that's free. So it's a free group that anybody can join. And that's going to have the podcast because I have a podcast called the Community Strategy Podcast. And there'll be episodes in there as well as blogs, as well as some tools and templates for them from the book. So just kind of bringing all the resources from the book into that space in a place where they can also ask questions of me and of their peers.
And all of this is available at Find Calm Here.
Yeah, there's a link to get on the wait list for the book and for the cohort, and you will get an email that'll invite you into that community.
Very cool. I love that. What has been one of the biggest surprises in this journey?
I just had no idea I was going to do any of this. If you would have asked me if you would have said, Deb, 2020, in 3 years from now, you're going to be talking about a book that you just wrote because you're a community strategist. I would have been like, what are you talking about?
Like, no, I'm on this exotic, vacation writing.
Yeah, I just thought that there was just such a different direction. And so I think the biggest thing I've learned is to really work on following what you think is right. It's so hard. It's so hard because I've just been the person that's like, okay, well, tell me how to do it and I'll follow every step. And what I've learned is that most of the time, those things don't work. The best results are when you know inside that you need to do X, Y, or Z thing. You know what? I'm just being called to sign up to work with this person, or I'm just being called to launch something, or I just feel like I just want to put this out there and I know I can share something with people. Just start doing something and just see how it goes, because honestly, you just never know. Like I said, I just never know what's going to happen, and that I was going to be speaking at events and that I was going to be talking to people like this. And so I just realized in this year that I've always been a community builder and that I've always been somebody who has wanted to hold space for others. And it just was finally listening to myself and saying, oh, and following that the last 3 years, even though everybody's telling me otherwise. Deb, I don't know if you should be doing this. I mean, I've heard that a million times.
Oh my gosh.
But I did it anyway because I'm just like, it just feels like the right thing to do.
Nice. Just such a great space to be in.
It's a challenging space because things don't always work out the way you want them to. But it's like, I couldn't imagine had I not gone down this route. And I would hate to see that none of these things would have happened, like this book, all of the resources, the videos, the podcast episodes that I've done. If I hadn't done any of that and just went back to my corporate job or something, wow, wouldn't that have sucked? Not just for me, but for other people that didn't get the message that I had inside because I listened to my mom who told me I should just go get a job.
Yeah. Oh, I understand. Well, I'm going to link your podcast and your website in the show notes. I wanted to ask, so you are writing a book. You were a journalist before. Do you ever see yourself getting back to writing for magazines, newspapers, living the dream of being a travel writer?
Funny enough, I just recently joined a community for people to learn how to pitch to large publications like Forbes and Insider and these different online work, travel and leisure, and all these kinds of different organizations, and how you can get a either contributor or a columnist position after you just have a few previews like that people can see. And there's people that don't have the background. Mostly people in that community don't have any background in journalism. So I'm hoping that I just started it and I just started doing pitches. So I've been working on that on the side. So I haven't gotten anything to share specifically yet, but that is the direction I'm going back to doing freelance writing, because I just feel after reading this book, I felt this is what I'm supposed to be doing, Deb. You're supposed to be writing. Like, this is what you're good at. You need to just keep doing that thing. And it's just tough right now because the world does not value writers. We're having a writing, as we're talking about this, there's a writer's strike. There's a lot of AI happening and writers are getting laid off. And so what I'll say to that is we still need people, a human, to process and report on important stories and telling stories of humans, because no bot can do that.
I agree.
So yeah, that's where I'm going next. So yep.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite quote or mantra or some words that you live by?
There's one by Maya Angelou. People will always forget what you say. People will always forget they heard, or something like that. I'm butchering now, but they will never forget the way you made them feel is the last sentence of that. And I just have always recognized, especially since really shifting to mindfulness in like 2017 and 2018, when I started really diving into mindfulness and meditation, realizing that how I recall things is how I feel. And a lot of people will say, I felt X way when I'm with this person. Like, Deb, when I come to your house, I feel calm. Like, that has been told to me. So the find calm here came from people who literally said, Deb, you help me find calm. And it turns out that my top strength is restorative, is helping people restore.
Nice.
So when you learn these things, it's like everything comes back together.
I love it. I love it. This has been such a great conversation. And I had forgotten that you were from Pennsylvania. I was just out in Media, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And
not too far.
Yeah, in Ocean City, New Jersey. And I've been to Hershey Park, which I think is a little closer to you. So,
it is. I worked there when I was a kid.
I love that.
Yep. Central Pennsylvania. It's a cheaper area to live in. It's not necessarily as fun as Philadelphia or being by the beach, though. So,
but it's beautiful. It's beautiful country. So
we've got tons of state parks. I've been to over 55 state parks in Pennsylvania as a hiker, as somebody who does like camping and hiking. So I would say that's the best thing we have, is we have some really great state parks here too. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking some time with me today. I know that I got a lot out of this, and I know that building community is so important for every single one of us, all of the listeners who are listening today. Whatever stage of their business they're in, whatever they're trying to build and grow, you have to have your community as part of that. And Deb's given us some really great tips for how to consider building that community, how to look at different tools and resources that you can use, and make sure to go to her website, check out the resources there, follow the podcast, and sign up for that pre-order for the book and her community. So, and with that, I'll be back again in a few days with another expert. Stay tuned. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.